Hello everyone, welcome to the third video of the object-oriented programming. In the previous videos, we got familiar with the structure of the object-oriented programming in the Python, and we have learned that object-oriented programming in Python is performed with using of the classes. And usually we have a class and a body of the class which is defined after that. And we know that classes include method and attributes. Attributes are properties of an object which is defined. For example, if it is a car, the color of the car, size of the car could be attribute, and the action that is performed on that object or object itself does it will be a method. In this video also, we are going to review another example. I will start it from very beginning. I try to show the advantages of the object-oriented programming, how using object-oriented programming, using the classes, help us to write more abstract, write once and use several times. The example for this video is, imagine a company asks us to write a program. In this program, we should make a database that includes names of the employees who are working in this company. This database should be able to be updated in future, and if any new employees added to the system, to the company should be able to add the new name, new attributes to the database. We can start by the program by company staff, call it company staff, and semicolon and pass. Pass here shows to the Python, tells the Python that the body will be staff. Yeah, the body of the class will be developed in future. We can start to make 3 instances: employee 1, employee 2, employee 3. If we run this cell, we will see employee 1 is instant 1, employee 2 here is instant 2, employee 3 is instant 3. We are kind of instantiated at the moment, and now we can add information of each employee one by one. For example, for employee 1, we can add some bio information like name, age, and email of the employee, company ID, and years of experience. Name, age, email, employee ID, years of experience are attributes of employee 1, which are defined here. And any of these instances which we have defined in this cell, employee 1, employee 2, and employee 3, are independent. They are saved at different parts of the memory. To make sure how different they are, we can print the memory address of each. For example, if we print ID of, and the same can do it for employee 2 and compare with employee 1, we'll see that they are allocated at different parts of the memory, 3 different instances. Okay, let's define employee 2. Attributes of employee 2 are as shown here, and employee 3. So far, we have added 5 attributes for each employee, 15 lines. Code is written here to introduce object 1, which is employee 1, object 2, which is employee 2, and object 3, which is employee 3. Each employee is considered as an object. And if you want to print this information, now print, for example, employee 1 name, and then after the name, age, and then his or her email, employee ID, and years of experience. We'll see Kim, 28 years old, Kim at gmail.com with company ID of this and 3 years experience. As you can see here, we wrote a lot just to introduce 3 employees. Imagine if we have 3,000 employees for the company, how difficult job it will be. To get rid of writing long like this or printing out information, for example, if I print out information of employee 2 at the next line, you will see for printing out of each object information, we need one cell, one independent cell. We can write all inside a methods of a class in the Python and make the program more abstract than what you see here. Here we delete the paths and we can start by init method, dunder init, and the arguments of the init here could be the attributes which are used: name, age, email, employee ID, and years experience. Simply, these attributes are added as arguments for this method. The structure of the methods inside the class is very similar to the structure of the functions. We can start to write them by def, and it is as we do for definition of the functions in the Python. Then at the next line, employee won't name came, but here we don't want to assign the name here, age, email, employee ID, years experience. Now our init method is almost ready, but still init is defined specifically for one object number 1, and we should generalize this part. We should reference each object by a specific name. Here I will add self as a reference. This self implies to a specific object here. You can write whatever word that you like, but self is what programmers use for writing their classes. And then to make it accessible, this self should be added at the beginning of each attribute like this. Then we make each attribute accessible through whole class, and also this self is a reference that refers to the specific object. Then we can start to define employee 1 by writing company staff bracket, and inside the brackets these arguments excluding self could be defined. We need to write self inside the class. Outside of class, we do not need to use self. Let's write it and see how abstract we can write here. If I replace these 3 lines code with this, you will see employee 1, company staff, Kim, employee 2, Sarah, employee 3, Tim. 3 employees are defined, and this information will be added to the database. Compare this cell 11 and cell 12 with cell 13, 16, 17. How abstract and how in order we can write by using the classes in Python. If I run the class, then run the employees, now these information are added to the database. We wanted to print the information out. We can add another method, def, and print info of what? Of an object. We can write self here, and then we can add one of these prints that we had in this cell, copy paste. But as I said, self is used as a reference showing a specific object. We should replace the employee with the self to show all employees attributes, not specifically just employee 1. If we execute this cell and run this cell, I think we can ignore these cells and start to test our program. Okay, we can say employee 1 dot print info bracket Kim. Kim, 28 years old. This is Kim's email and company ID with 3 years experience. We are printing out information of employee 2 and employee 3. Yes. So see, everything is in order. Just we wrote one class. Inside the class, we define the attributes. Then these information are added to the database. Now we can print out the information. Compare it with previous try that we had, how simple, and everything is in order. Here you can see class is defined, company stuff is name of the class, and init function, and then print out the information. Each attribute which is defined by self.name, self.age, all type of attributes which are defined by self are accessible through whole class. For example, here we have self-name. Self-name is called inside the print info method. Inside the print info method, we called it and it is accessible. Now we want to make a bit change and we want to make it a bit smart. We want to see either any of 3 employees that we introduce to the database have received loan from the company or not, and if they have received the loan, how much they have received. How we can develop the program, how we can develop this class to include this information. It seems if we add, for example, has loan and then reference it to a specific object, we say self has loan. This has loan could be yes or no. For example, here when we define an employee, we say Kim, 28 years old, with this email and with this ID. If you write yes at the end, it would show that yes, Kim has received a loan. Then, if it is detected that Kim has received the loan, we need to enter the amount of the loan manually. To do so, we need one self loan amount. At the moment, we keep it as none. We are going to define it manually and add to the database. We should think how we can develop this program to be able to add the amount of the loan. It is not very difficult. Just we can add another method like get loan info, and again get loan info of an employee. Then this self we need it to put inside the bracket. Get loan information of employee. Self refers to a specific object. Then we can say if self has loan. You see self has loan, this attribute which is defined in init method is accessible within this method also. If self has loan, lower, yes. If it was yes by if a statement, then amount of the loan will be input, and inside this input we can say enter the loan amount received Here, this parameter, this variable which is defined amount, is just accessible inside this method. As you see, we didn't use self here, and because self is not used, actually we do not need it within other methods. If we need it, we can add self here, but you will see how we can use it inside this method, and that's it. We do not need to use it anymore. Then self loan amount will be, I will use float type for amount. Whatever loan manually we add here will be added to the loan amount. It will be an attribute, and then we can print out information. For example, Kim has received loan of, we use curly brackets, self loan amount. Yeah. For example, use euro here, 500 euro, 1000 euro loan. Let's see how it works. We added a method, get loan information. This will check by if a statement. Oh, if it is if a statement, we need to indent here. If this attribute lower is equals to yes, then amount will be asked, and operator will add how much was the loan, and this amount will be allocated inside self loan amount as the attribute of the class, and then we can see the information. If not, what if not? We can else print. Now we need just to run this class once, then information that we should add at the moment are a bit different, because this information that previously we added didn't have argument of has no. Then for new information, for Kim will be yes, for Sarah will be yes, and for Tim will be no. I would add them to another cell because I want to do a comparison for you also. Here we just keep the previous definition. Employee number 1. Employee number 2, employee number 3. This information are added to the database. I just ran this cell. Now I want to check that either employee 1 dot get loan info. I want to check loan information of employee number 1, because as an attribute we inform the program that has received the loan. It asks how much. The operator here can add 500, and then we will see that Kim has received loan of 500 euro. We can repeat it for employee number 2. Let's say 1000. Sarah has received 1000 euro, and employee number 3, Kim, has not received any loan. Here I want to show you how we can call the methods inside the class. For example, if you need information of employee number 1, employee number 1 dot information are printed out here. We can call this method by name of the class also. If we write name of the class here, but we need to write a specific name of the class, the method, specifically which employee information we need. Here, if you write employee 1, you will see employee team information are printed out, and if you write employee 3, team information is printed out. It's about how we can call the information, how we can call the methods and attributes outside of the class. But with this method, we just need a bracket. Even we do not need to write self inside the bracket. Self is just applicable inside the class. You remember here I discussed one variable, which is amount. This variable is defined inside this method, and it is not accessible in init. It is not accessible in printout. If you want to make it accessible, we need to add a self and refer it to a specific object. Not only the attributes are accessible within whole body of the class, but also the methods are accessible. Here, that delete extra information, I want to use this print information, this method, inside get loan information. How? I just can write self I want to write it a bit top self dot. You remember here in this cell, the initially information of the 3 employees are added, and in this series of information we didn't have any information about the loans, and we got this print out. And I will show you that after adding information for the loan, you remember for Kim, I think I added 500, for Sarah I added €1,000, and for Team had not received any loan from the company. This update on the information is implemented, and now I want to run the class once more, and when I run get loan information, you will see the update inside the information. Let me run it. Okay, now I want to ask about employee number 1. 500. Yeah, here in the printout I added this argument. Previously, the information that each object had was name, age, email, employee ID, and years of experience. But recently, we added some information about the loan. I added this information here, and now we see how we can call the method inside other methods within the class body. Here I added print information that prints the information of the person who received the loan from the company. Okay, let's run it. I will run this cell, and employee 1, 2, 3 information already was added to the system. We can delete this information and say employee 1 dot employee number 1 enter the loan that is received. Operator will add 500. You will see the print information is modified. Now print information. In the print information we have, yes, he has received a loan and the amount of the loan is 500. We can do the same check for employee number 2. If operator add 1,000, the print will be updated. And if employee, we check employee number 3, we see the team has not received any loan. What we have reviewed in this example so far were 3 objects: employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, with specific attributes that they had, some biodata like age, some contact information like email, years of experience, and we set this self.attribute. By self.attribute, we make it accessible through our class. These attributes are instant attributes, attributes that specifically belong to a specific object. For example, contact information of Kim is kim@gmail.com, but contact information of Sarah is sarah@gmail.com. They have different contact information. Specifically, each attribute belongs to a specific object. Now, I want to introduce an attribute that is called class attribute, and let's introduce you by an example. Let's say we are adding information of the employees to the database, employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, and we want to have a counter. This counter will show us, after adding information of each employee, how many employees we have in the company. We can add counter equal to 0 here. Put these parameters here, and we do not need to add self. This counter will be accessible through whole body of the program. And here we can define, because it is class attribute dot counter plus 1. If we add information of employee 1, counter at beginning is 0, we'll have 1 here. If you add information of employee number 2, this counter will be 2. After adding third employee, the counter will be 3, and it will increase over time. Just by this example, I wanted to show you how define one attribute for the class. Let's try it. We should run it once, and adding information. Now, for example, we have employee 1. Let's add 1 by 1. Bring all to this cell, comment them. Now, just one employee defined for the class, and we see that one employee is added. Let's go to the next cell, delete these extra cells for avoid confusion. We can add employee number 2 information. Added. Then in the next cell, we can say, tell us how many employees are in the database. Employee 2. Second, again, let's add another cell. Employee 3 information. Is added here. Let's run it and count. 3 employee information are added to the system. To wrap up, First, we wanted to show you how abstract and how organized we can write a program using the classes in Python. Instead of writing and repeating repeated parameters over and over, we can write one class and use it several times. And also in this example, we discuss a bit about type of the attributes that we use. We had attributes which are accessible through whole class body, and the specific parameters are just accessible inside one specific method, and also the methods which are accessible by adding the self through whole body of the class. And we saw that how we can add extra information to the database, also interaction with the operator and the database. For example, if an employee has received a loan, how much it was, and how we can update the printout of the employee information. And finally, I introduce you the class attribute. Class attribute, which is written above init method. And this counter here is called counter, is accessible through whole class. This is specifically defined for the class. That's why to update it, we should write name of the class dot name of the class attribute to update it. And I cleaned all extra information, added one by one, employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, and you saw how by adding each employee, this counter number is updated in the program. Hope you enjoyed this video.